The Golan Heights. In 1973, this rocky terrain on the Israel-Syria border turns into a killing ground. A few hundred unprepared Israeli crews come face to face with 1,200 Syrian tanks.
כל מה שאני רואה זה מאופק לאופק, כל הצבא הסורי מתחיל לנסוע מולי.
This was a no-holds-barred fight, and neither side backed down from it.
The casualties are appalling, and the future of the Middle East is at stake in one of history's greatest tank battles.
זה דנטה, זה לא יאומן, זה תופת.
The Golan Heights, 1,200 square kilometers of the most hotly contested territory on the planet. It's a barren, volcanic escarpment that has been occupied by Israel since the Six-Day Arab-Israeli War of 1967. Both Israel and Syria claim it as their own. In the autumn of 1973, that border dispute erupts into a sudden, ferocious and bloody war. October the 6th. It's Yom Kippur, the Jewish Day of Atonement. Most Israelis are at home repenting for their sins and observing a fast. The frontier with Syria is lightly guarded. The commander of the 74th Israeli Tank Battalion, Lieutenant Colonel Yair Nafshi, begins a routine patrol.
פשוט שלווה, וככה אני מסייר ממקום למקום. לקראת שעה 12, מתקשר אליי מפקד מוצב החרמון, ואומר לי, יאיר, הסורים מורידים רשתות הסוואה מהארטילריה. ומכאן אני 14:00. אני מסובב את הג'יפ ומגיע עוד פעם למקום הצפוני, אוסף את כל החיילים, ואני אומר להם, תראו, המצב הוא שהצבא הסורי הוריד רשתות הסוואה. אני לא יודע מה זה אומר. האנשים מפסיקים את הצום, ועולים על הכלים ומתחילים לבדוק אותם. ותוך כדי היציאה שלנו מהחניונים, התופת נפתחת. והארטילריה נוחתת עלינו, ותקיפות של מטוסי חיל האוויר הסורי.
The Syrians have been planning the attack for 9 months. Israeli intelligence had some clues, but for the men on the front, it's a complete surprise.
What the Syrians do is lull Israel into a false sense of security. The Israelis have seen the Syrians move all their troops up, get geared up for war, time and again, only to have them all go back to their bases. And so on the 6th of October, when the Syrians don't go back to their bases, the Israelis are caught completely off guard.
Israel is a small state and they have perfected the art of mobilization. So it is in the first shots of the war that you want to accomplish as much as possible so as not to bring the bulk of the Israeli army against you.
The majority of the Israeli forces are reservists, which need 20 hours to fully mobilize. Consequently, Israeli forces on the Golan Heights consist of fewer than 6,000 light infantry, 60 artillery pieces, and 2 under-strength armored brigades with 170 tanks. In comparison, the Syrians have massed more than 50,000 infantry, 600 artillery pieces, and 1,200 main battle tanks.
This is a huge amount of armor. And over and above that, the intelligence services in Israel were lax. The Arabs can't fight. And so, as a result, they were in for a very major surprise.
I thought to myself, what's going on? who are those pilots, crazy pilots, what they are doing? And I thought this is Israeli. By mistake, they are bombing us. I didn't realize that any aircraft from Syria can come across the border and start to bomb us. And I couldn't talk after that.
כאשר אני חוצה את מטחי הפגזים, וככה גל אחרי גל, ואני תוך 5 דקות נמצא צופה על יותר מחצי רמת הגולן. בהתחלה זה קטן, ואתה רואה כמו סלסולים של עשן סיגריות, ולאט לאט זה נעשה ומתקרב גדול וגדול. כל מה שאני רואה זה מאופק לאופק, כל הצבא הסורי מתחיל לנסוע מולי.
This is only part of a much larger war. Egypt and Syria have launched simultaneous attacks on 2 fronts, splitting Israeli defense forces. Their mission? To take back territory lost in 1967 during the 6-day Arab-Israeli war, including the Sinai and the Golan Heights.
The Syrian body politic was humiliated, was traumatized. It is as a result of this that we had the 1973 war, a war that was made specifically in order to regain this territory that Israel occupied.
The Syrian battle plan is to use overwhelming force and penetrate the Israeli line at 2 points. Then send armored divisions through the gaps to advance across the Golan Plateau and seize key bridges over the Jordan River. At the spearhead of the Syrian attack are masses of the Soviet-designed T-55 tank. The T-55 at 40 tons is relatively small for a main battle tank, making it hard to hit. The T-55's 100mm main cannon has an effective range of just 2,400 meters, no match for the bigger guns of the Israelis. But that disadvantage is offset by numbers. The Syrians attack the Golan Heights with more than 1,200 T-55s. The defending Israelis, with their 170 tanks, are outnumbered almost 7-1. For the Israelis, the tank of choice on the rocky terrain of the Golan is the Shot Cal, an upgraded version of the British Centurion main battle tank. It's protected by 15 centimeters of frontal armor and equipped with a 105mm rifled cannon, accurate at ranges in excess of 3,600 meters. The Shot Cal is a formidable opponent to the Syrians' T-55s.
ודוד יוצא להילחם בגוליית. כאשר עשה את ההחלטה לצאת להילחם בגוליית, הוא ידע שעם אותו אבן קלע הוא מנצח את גוליית, כי הוא לא נכנס לטווח הנשק של גוליית. ומחוץ לטווח הוא פוגע בו באבן, מפיל אותו. אני הולך להיות דוד. הסורים לא פותחים באש, מטווחים של למעלה מ-2,200 מטר, ואילו אני, בכל האימונים שלי, יכול לראות ולפגוע במטרות 4 קילומטר, 5 קילומטר.
The Israelis understood that in the terrain of the Middle East, where you often had very long fields of fire, being able to kill the other guy before he could kill you was a tremendous advantage. And so the Israelis had put a tremendous amount of effort into developing long-range gunnery skills. When the initial Syrian attack in the north floundered, the commanders decided that they would nevertheless try to mount some kind of a night operation to see if they couldn't get back on schedule. And so they pushed forward in the darkness. And at that moment, they had a tremendous advantage. The Syrian tanks had Soviet night fighting equipment. The Israelis didn't. And as a result, when the Syrians began to push into their lines, the Israelis were at a complete loss as to what to do or how to do it.
The hardest combat was during the night. It was dark and nobody used any lights. When you turn on the lights, immediately they kill you. Really, the main problem is during the night, they had infrared system.
Syrian infrared projectors enabled the T-55s to see in the dark, detecting targets up to 1,200 meters away. It's a huge advantage for the Syrians. The only defense the Israelis have are night vision binoculars that can detect the infrared beam.
One situation, I was looking to identify them, and I moved my face down, and I saw all the parts of my tank. I was surprised, what is dark? I moved my binocular, and I saw it's dark. I put it again in my face, I saw every part. And I found that 200 meters in the front of me, one projector looked straight to my eyes with infrared system. And he identified me, he was ready to shoot. And I screamed to my driver, go far away, and we moved back. We shot the direction they came from, just to give them the feeling that we are there waiting for them. They didn't know that we are blind.
The Syrians infiltrate Israeli positions through the night, and the line between the two tank armies becomes increasingly blurred.
One situation, I saw a tank beside my tank, 10 meters. The tank looked strange, and the stoplights turn on. And I talked with platoon leader. He was close to my tank. He said, there is a tank there, use the light and show me who is this tank. He didn't want first, of course, and I convinced him, I ordered him. And he put the lights, and I saw T-55. I was in shock. And of course, I shot him. This moment, when he was on fire, I saw another tank close to him. I shot him too.
After 18 hours of almost continuous combat, the crews of the 77th and 74th Israeli battalions have held the line in the North Golan Heights. And pay a terrible price. Hundreds of dead and wounded, and 75 of their tanks destroyed. But for the Syrians, the price is even higher. The casualties number in the thousands, and more than 100 tanks are lost. But in the open terrain further south, the Syrian offensive has been far more successful. They've wiped out an entire tank battalion, clearing the way for a push into the Israeli heartland. The future, not just of Israel, but of the whole Middle East, now hangs in the balance. October the 6th, 1973. Egypt and Syria attack Israeli forces on two fronts. They're determined to take back all the territory they lost in the Six-Day War of 1967. Syrian armored brigades strike at 2 points on the Golan Heights, throwing 50,000 infantry and 1,200 tanks into the battle. In the rugged and hilly northern sector, Israeli defenders hold the line through the first day of fighting. even though they're outnumbered almost 7-1 and take heavy casualties. But in the more open country further south, the Syrians seem unstoppable.
In the south, you had two very aggressive Syrian commanders. They dragged their bridging equipment forward, they crossed over, and they were able to mass so much power against these thinned-out Israeli defenses in the southern flank of the Golan that they were able to punch through.
October the 7th. After a day of fierce fighting, the Israeli southern line falls apart under a massive onslaught of Syrian armor. By 8 a.m., Syrian forces are advancing across the Golan Plateau, driving towards key bridges crossing the Jordan River.
The Syrian assumption was that if they could punch through those Israeli lines and drive as fast as they could, grab those bridges, they would effectively be able to prevent Israeli reserves from mounting a viable counterattack out of Galilee.
At 2 o'clock, when I heard the alarm, I opened immediately the radio. I heard the BBC announcing that the war started in Israel.
A heavy battle of our mixed forces is continuing on the Golan Heights as Syrian armor has been attempting to break the Israeli line and has, according to the news here, been checked by Israeli tanks and artillery.
I called my unit, the brigade, and they told me, come immediately, there is a war. The roads were empty, I drove like a hell, and the feeling was that they caught us unprepared.
ב-73 הטנקים היו ריקים מתחמושת, ריקים מציוד. צריך היה לטעון אותם בפגזים ולהוציא מהמחסנים את כל הציוד ולהתארגן.
If you have the full crew, which are 4 members, it takes something like 4 to 6 hours to prepare it really properly. But during the rush time, we didn't really prepare properly the tanks.
Everybody went to the Golan Heights, doesn't matter how many tanks he had, if the tanks are completely equipped or not. They just went.
Syrian intelligence estimates it will take Israel 20 hours to mobilize its tank reserves, but the Israelis do it in 10. Throughout the night, Israeli reservists make their way to the battlefield. They are then hastily organized into units and thrown into the fight against the Syrians. By the early hours of October the 7th, the first tanks reached the Golan Heights.
בשעות מוקדמות של הבוקר התחלנו להתקדם לתוך כיוון המשוער של האויב שכבר היה בתוך רמת הגולן. היה דמדומים. מה שראינו זה הרבה מאוד טנקים. אני חושב שירד מין מסך כזה ועכשיו עושים מה שצריך ולא חושבים על יותר מדי. פתחנו עליהם באש. תיאום כוונות זה נדרש להתאים את הקנה של התותח לצלב של הטלסקופ. מכיוון שלא עשינו את זה בגלל היציאה, אבל לא פגענו, אפשר לעשות גם תיאום כוונות קרבי. זה כמובן הרבה פחות מדויק, אבל זה תיאום קרבי, זה יותר טוב מאשר כלום, וזה מה שעשינו. בכמה טנקים. אבל זמן לא רב אחרי זה, אני זוכר לפחות שראיתי ענן אבק מאוד גדול מגיע מכיוון דרום-מזרח, וכשהענן הזה התקרב, הסתבר שזה כוח סורי מאוד גדול, עם טנקים T-62.
For the already outnumbered Israelis, this is a worrying addition to the battlefield. The T-62 is an upgraded version of the T-55. The upgrades include 240 millimeters of frontal armor and a bigger 581 horsepower engine. But the biggest threat is the T-62's 115 millimeter main cannon. Its smooth bore design increases muzzle velocity, giving it a range of nearly 3,000 meters.
ואז התחלתי באמת להרגיש שיורים עליי בכוונה לפגוע בי, ופגזים עוברים מהצדדים שלי ועוברים מאחוריי. אני יודע שאם הוא עכשיו פגע ארוך, מה שנקרא, אז הפגז הבא יהיה קצר, או הפגז הבא הוא יתקן, ואז הוא יפגע בי, ואז יורד אחורה ועולה לעמדה חדשה ומחפש עוד פעם את המגע. כבר אנחנו התחלנו את המגע הראשון אולי עם 5 או 6 טנקים, מול הכוח הסורי המאוד גדול הזה. נשאר לנו לנסות לעשות איזושהי השהיה, איזשהו קרב השהיה והם פשוט דחקו אותנו אחורה.
Four Syrian brigades, 350 tanks, pushed through the Israeli defenders and advanced towards the bridges over the Jordan River.
My battalion meet them on the road from the Betecha Valley up to the Golan Heights. The first tanks in our column, they didn't see them. Only the last tank saw them, and he began to shoot. And the commander shouted him, "Why are you shooting? We are in our territory." He said, "This is Syrians, already here. We didn't believe that they arrived so west." Their problem was that the T-55 have only 5 degrees of degradation.
That means the cannon can't be aimed very far down. It's a disadvantage for a tank on higher ground engaging an enemy approaching from below. Beyond that, the Israeli shot cows have a high degree of elevation, making it easier to hit a target above them.
They had to expose themselves if they wanted to have enough degradation to shoot at us. So when they expose themselves, we shoot them. So by that way, we succeed to stop them.
The real problem there was simply Syrian junior officers allow small Israeli forces to completely derail the one thing that might have actually secured victory for Syria, the drive to take the Jordan River bridges.
Israeli reserves from the 39th Battalion stopped the Syrian 1st Armored Division at Batea Road. But further south, the Syrian offensive remains unopposed, as 40 tanks of the 132nd Mechanized Brigade advance east towards the small village of El Al.
אני מקבל פקודה שאני צריך לעלות לאל על ולסתום שם את מה שנקרא מיצר אל על. זה מיצר בין שני ודיות, בין שני קניונים עמוקים ברוחב של קילומטר. מי שמחזיק אותו ומצליח לשמור עליו, מחזיק את האפשרות של הכוחות לרדת למטה לכנרת. אנחנו בערך בסביב השעה 9, אני במשקפת מתחיל לזהות מה שאנחנו קוראים בשריון אבקים, רבים של אבק. כלומר, אתה רואה איזה שהם תמרות מרחוק, לא שומע רעש עדיין, אבל במשקפת מזהה מרחק של 3-4 קילומטר איזושהי תנועה.
That movement in the distance is an entire brigade of Syrian tanks. Their mission is to occupy the western edge of the Golan Heights overlooking the Sea of Galilee. From here, the flatlands of Israel lie almost undefended and at the mercy of the advancing Syrians.
אם אתה לא מצליח, עוברים אותך והסורים בכנרת. אתה מבין שאי ההצלחה או נפילה או נסיגה שלך, זה לא שלך אישית. זה גורלי.
October the 7th, 1973. It is 20 hours into the Syrian attack on the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. In the rugged and rocky northern sector, 2 Israeli tank units struggle to hold off the Syrians. But in the flatter terrain of the southern Golan, masses of Syrian armor have rolled out over the Israelis and are pushing on towards bridges over the Jordan River.
אנחנו בערך בסביב השעה 9, אני במשקפת מתחיל לזהות מה שאנחנו קוראים בשריון אבקים, רבים של אבק. התנועה הזאת הולכת ומתבררת יותר ויותר, ואז אנחנו פשוט מזהים טנקים סורים. ונעצרים בטווחים של בערך 1,300, 1,400, 1,500 מטר, כאשר אנחנו מזהים פגיעות רבות. במישור אל על הוא פלטה מוחלטת. זה כאילו שמו טנקים על שולחן ביליארד, ואמרו להם, בבקשה, עכשיו תשחקו. אתה רואה במרחקים עצומים, אין לך איפה להסתתר. והדבר היחידי שיכול להציל אותך זה היכולת שלך, המיומנות שלך, וכל הזמן לזוז. כל הזמן לזוז. אני כל הזמן דואג שהפלוגות שאיתי יזוזו ימינה ושמאלה, שלא יראו יותר מאשר מה שנקרא כדור למטרה, כלומר 2-3 פגזים בזה אחר זה, כי אנחנו יורים אחד ואנחנו מתקנים ויורים עוד אחד, ושלא יישארו באותו מקום. אז כדי להשיג מטרה, אתה צריך לעצור, לעמוד, ואתה צריך להביא את הצריח לנקודה שהיא מול טנק, אתה אומר את הטווח לפי הערכתך, ואז כשכולם מודיעים לי על, אני נותן את פקודת האש.
The Israelis, for their part, maneuvered constantly. They darted from firing position to firing position. Most Syrian armored units didn't maneuver at all. They simply drove straight at the Israelis.
And so this is really the big difference between the Syrian and Israeli armies. Syrians, when they gain territory, they hang on to it to the death, which might be good, but is very bad if you need to maneuver.
The simple fact is that the Syrian tankers are just no match for the Israeli counterparts. The Israelis have taken the best shots that Syria has to give, and they're now in a position with enough combat strength that they can begin to push back.
So we started to move unit by unit, and I found myself alone in Ramtania. There was 2 hills, and I was in the cradle, of the hills, overlooking Hoshnia village. I saw a regiment getting fueled or rearmed and so on. And I started to shoot at them. And I saw some Syrian tanks leaving the hills. And I started to hit one by one because they were standing one next to the other, very, very close.
The Syrian armor has difficulty repelling the Israelis' high-explosive squash head, or Hesh round. It consists of thin metal shells filled with plastic explosive. On impact, they squash against the target and explode, creating a shock wave that tears apart the inside of the tank.
I think I destroyed something like 7 tanks before they started to move and to understand that somebody is shooting at them. They shot back. Our tank started to burn. As we evacuated from the tank, after a few meters we left the tank, our tank exploded.
The outnumbered Israelis fall back and regroup. and the Syrians gear up for a final offensive. By late evening on the 8th of October, they've assembled an entire armored division, over 250 tanks in Hushnia, a tiny hamlet in the South Golan, which is about to become ground zero in one of history's greatest tank battles.
בעצם החזיקו את המקום הזה כמאחז אחרון שלהם ברמת הגולן, בחלק הזה. ובפעם הראשונה במלחמה, זה יום שלישי אחר הצהריים, יש תכנון של התקפה מסודרת עם ארטילריה ועם מטוסים. וארטילריה התחילה לרדת על חושניה. ואנחנו שני גדודי טנקים, התחלנו להתקדם ולחצות את השטח שמקו הנפט לכיוון חושניה. זה שעות ערב של דמדומים, אור אחרון, ואתה רואה רכס שלם בוער, מתפוצץ, כאשר המסגד של חושניה בתוך כל הדבר הזה, ואתה מתקדם עם הטנקים. הסורים לא הספיקו לברוח. כאשר לעבור את הכפר כבר לא יורים עלינו, אבל מסוכן לעבור כי הכל מתפוצץ ובוער מסביב. זה דנטה, זה לא יאומן, זה תופת. ואז מתוך המחנה פורצים החוצה בבריחה מבוהלת, טנקים, מסעיות, עד כדי התנגשות. ועומד טנק סורי שכבר לא, הוא ברור לו שהוא לא יכול להמשיך לברוח, והוא מצודד צריח לכיוון שלי, אבל התותח שלי והצריח שלי יותר רחוק, וזה ברור לגמרי שבמהירות אני לא אצליח להגיע אליו, הוא יגיע לפניי. הוא יגיע לפניי אז אני מושמד. מאחוריי ישנו אחד המ"פים שלי. ינקלה מכניס בו פגז. והם נמלטים.
The Israeli reserves destroy more than 200 tanks, stalling the Syrians' big push. By the afternoon of October the 9th, the Israelis have retaken most of the southern Golan. On the northern front, they're still struggling to hold off Syrian forces in a place that will soon become known as the Valley of the Tears.
אנחנו נמצאים כרגע בעמדות הסופיות ששולטות על עמק הבכה שאנחנו רואים אותו כאן לפנינו. והתמונה הייתה שכאשר אני מגיע ועוזב את רכס הבוסטר עם 6 טנקים, מבין שאני לא אגיע לעמדות האלה שהתכוונתי להגיע אליהם, שהן העמדות הנוחות ביותר והטובות ביותר והשולטות על כל מרחב עמק הבכה. חטיבה 7 נסוגה לאחור, ואני מוצא את עצמי עם 6 טנקים, עומד במקום, ואני אומר, יוספי, יוספי, קרב הגנה במדרון האחורי. ואני יוצר את 6 הטנקים ופורס אותם במדרון האחורי של הגבעה שנמצאת מאחורינו. מה שאני רואה זה את העשנים של האקזוזים של הטנקים הסורים מהצד הזה של הגבעה. ואני מתחיל לחלק. אתה רואה את העשנים בצד השני של הגבעה, אתה לוקח את 3 האלה. אתה לוקח את 3 האלה, אתה את 2 האלה, אתה את 3 האלה, ונותן לסורים לעלות מהצד השני של הגבעה. ונותן לסורים להתקדם, הם עולים במעלה הגבעה, כאשר קנה התותחים למעלה, ואני מחכה להם. מתפתח הקרב בטווחים הקצרים ביותר, בין 250, 300, 400 מטר. כל הנחשול הזה של הטנקים שמתקדם מערבה לעבר הכביש הראשי נבלם. בקרב הזה, אחרי שבלמנו את הצבא הסורי, נשארתי עם 2 טנקים. בצד הזה, למרגלות החרמונית, בחורשה שאנחנו רואים אותה שם, ישנו אותו ואדי מפורסם שמג"ד 77 קהלני עומד ובולם את עליית הסורים דרך הוואדי הזה.
When I came 2 kilometers from the hills, I saw far away Israeli tanks on fire and other tanks around them, it was Syrian tanks. And I moved with my tanks to the valley. I was in shock. Called my commander and said, if you have any tanks in the area, send them immediately.
October the 9th, 1973. Israeli and Syrian tank forces have been fighting on the Golan Heights for 3 days, with both sides taking heavy casualties. The Syrians outnumber the Israelis and quickly gain the upper hand, but the Israelis push back with their reserve forces. Now time is running out for the Syrian army. They make one last attempt to break through Israeli defenses in the north, throwing an entire armored division into the battle.
They've got 200 tanks, half of them T-62s, and the Israelis are down to less than 30 Centurions.
I knew the main forces is just behind the hill. If they will come to the top of the hills, nobody can stop them. They will run all the way to the Galilee. And I have decided to move forward and to catch the hills and to catch them on the valley.
It's a desperate gambit, and the only chance the Israelis have. They must regain specially constructed firing positions. To do that, they have to cross 800 meters of open ground in the teeth of Syrian fire.
And I ordered to move forward like it was written in the book. Nobody moved. And I've decided to move all of them to my frequency, to my radio. Every gunner, loader, driver, and tank commander, sergeant listened to my voice. And I told them, look, the Syrian soldiers, how they're fighting so well. Look at them. Look the motivation that they have. What happened to us? Am I see chicken in my unit? Start to move. And I started to move. I saw another tank joined me, and another tank joined me. And I prayed to the God, just give me to arrive to the top of the hill, and we will catch them. And suddenly another tanks arrived to the hills, and we arrived. The valley was dark from tanks, and we shot like crazy. The moment that we've been on the fire position and they move on the valley, this was easier for us to shoot all of them. I fought to survive. Some of them, they stopped and they shot and they killed my tanks. We survived around 3-4 tanks, no more than that. I remember that I was trying to count the tanks that we shot all over, and I couldn't. It was so many.
Syria's hope of retaking the Golan Heights ends in the Valley of the Tears. On October the 11th, the Israelis launched their own offensive into Syria. On the 23rd, the Syrians capitulate. The battle for the Golan Heights is finally over.
This was simply competent Israeli commanders outthinking, outmoving, outfighting their Syrian opponents. But there's no question that the Syrians fought incredibly hard. They mounted attack after attack after attack into the teeth of ferocious Israeli defenses. And in many cases, they died to a man. This was a no-holds-barred fight, and neither side backed down from it.
The 1973 Arab-Israeli War lasts just 16 days, among the bloodiest in the history of armored warfare. The battlefields are left littered with the hulks of destroyed tanks. The Israelis lose between 400 and 500, the two Arab countries somewhere between 12 and 2,200. But the real tragedy is in the human cost on both sides. 21,000 dead, and tens of thousands more wounded.
Most of my friends I lost during wars. They were 19, 20 years old, no more than that. And I saw them how they fight, and it's unbelievable. And I was very proud